my first step ever. Now, there are many first steps that one takes in their life because as we grow in life, as we evolve, we learn a lot, many things about our own selves that we were never aware of. And that only comes with being persistent, being consistent, and keep on achieving those goals, building those systems, and doing things that really mean something to us, that has our own definition of success in it. And for that, we need to kind of understand that what we are good at, what we want to really work on, or even, just keep experimenting, finding that thing that we really like. And on that journey, we want to, through this podcast, we want to tell you that it's very important to have conviction in what you do and keep taking actionable steps to reach your first steps and many first steps. So please join me in welcoming someone extremely special today, all the way from the other part of the globe, because I sit in Australia right now, and she is someone who is going to help you understand why loving yourself is so important. So please join me in welcoming Sarina Helen, all the way from the US. Hi, Sarina. Welcome on my first step ever.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody.
I just love your energy. And as I mentioned before, we got into the chat that I love your amazing curly hair. So
Thank
the
you.
ones seeing us on YouTube, you can obviously see the amazing Sarina over here. And the ones who are listening to us, we have got some really pretty and very, very intelligent person today in the virtual
Thank
First
you.
Step Studios. So I'm going to quickly take our listeners through a bit of a sneak peek about what you are doing today, but who you are and how you became the person you are. That's the journey we're going to uncover in this episode today.
I love it.
So, Sarina Helen is an impactful change maker driven by an entrepreneurial spirit, renowned for founding the Juice Parlor in Los Angeles, CA. Her mission revolves around investing in human and planetary wellness. Ooh, interesting. She serves as a holistic wellness coach aiming to empower women through transformative wellness programs. Drawing from her own decade long burnout journey, we all can relate with that. Sarina seeks to expedite healing and wellness and emphasizing the importance of self connection, self love, and self worth as foundational elements for serving the world effectively. Now, I think we cannot, no one can emphasize enough that how important it is to love your own self, to find the self worth, because if that's missing, if your foundation is, over the roof, it's very challenging to kind of go past in your life and enjoy the gift of life that someone has received. So, Helen, Sarina Helen.
Sarina Helen. I love it.
Sarina, let's just trace our steps back to the very beginning of you
Yes.
so that we come to know that, what was the mindset that you were surrounded with when you were growing up?
Yeah. So it's interesting. My journey has not been linear. So that's the first important part. And in my little bio that you just talked about, it's pretty obvious. Like I do environmental work, I do human work and wellness and all of that. And with that, I grew up with this notion that first of all, anything is possible. Anything you put your mind to is possible. And also always keep the environment in mind. So to think through those types of challenges and issues that might come up in your entrepreneurial journey. And then also the human element of it, which is to be kind to people along the way. And that also includes being kind to yourself. So I've been raised by very wonderful parents who have instilled this the environmental and human wellness element in my life. And so it's come up quite a lot and it continues to come up. But yeah, like I said, my journey was not linear and it all started with the environmental piece. That was the most important part. So I initially decided to tackle climate change and then recently ended up deciding that I want to be a holistic wellness coach.
Exciting. See that we have gotten an overview of where you started at and where you're right now. And I'm going to trace our steps back in the phases of your life, which kind of really built you as a person and as a character, because that's very important for our listeners to, understand the process, that how it really happens. Because a person who is able to, recognize their own voice, self-worth, they have gone through a process and we would love to uncover that.
Yes.
So take us through your childhood, Sarina, maybe in the first 10 or 15 years of your childhood. What kind of person were you? Were you rebellious, or were you like very sorted? What was it for you?
So I guess early childhood, I was very shy and to a point where I didn't really speak. So I didn't use my voice a lot. And that's come up a lot as a theme in my life. I wasn't able to use my voice. I don't know if there was some sort of a blockage or what happened, but something happened. It could be trauma based. Really, I'm not quite sure. But I wasn't able to use my voice and to like speak up for myself and, do the things that children might want to do and like learn to do. And then growing up, I mean, I was exposed to the environmental industry and I learned a lot about like protecting our natural resources and things like that. So gained a lot of knowledge and through parenting and all of that. And yeah, I mean the self-love element really came to play when I started learning a lot more about myself and when I couldn't actually speak my truth, I was faced with certain challenges. And then, for example, I couldn't even, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a silly example, but let's say I couldn't see a math problem on the board. I wasn't able to say, hey, I can't really see that. So it was like little things like that that came up in my childhood where as I started getting older, I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't like, those were the simple little things that I could have done to just, little red flag there. But that
Yeah,
continued in my life's journey of not knowing when to speak up and not knowing when to be able to, just like
yeah,
really it's all about, I guess, showing yourself that you are worthy. Like you're worthy to speak up and even if you sound like a complete fool, right? Because a lot of
yes,
times we feel like the question is too stupid or maybe even something we're thinking through internally might be too, I don't know, weird or, and then all of a sudden I'm exposed to all sorts of different types of weird people as I, got older and we can get
yeah.
into that too. But it was a lot of that in my life and that theme of just not staying up for myself, which carried on through my life. So I could get into it.
Sarina, thank you so much for sharing that and opening up, because I think that's what you call when you say that you were person is an authentic person when they embrace them, their all facets of their life, the phases that they've been, they're able to speak their truth, that this is how I was, this is what I felt. Because I think a lot of people who are listening to us or viewing us today from all across the globe, they can be in certain situations where I think the similar theme, the similar concept might be coming up, that they're not able to either communicate with their bosses or maybe their professors or their friends or their loved ones, or maybe their partners, that they are not able to speak up or they're not able to say what they want to. So when you were in that situation and when you were growing up, you mentioned that that is how it was, you're not sure like what it was, why you were, so conscious of saying something and about how you might appear in front of someone else. When did that transition start happening for you? As you mentioned that, when you grew up, you went to the university, it was a different place altogether, you met more people. When did that realization start happening for you? Okay, I have been quiet for a really long time, I haven't really embraced myself, who I am. How did that start happening for you?
Sure. So initially, it was actually senior year of high school. That was when I started getting hints and glimmers of, hey, like something is something's up here. I'm not really good at public speaking, or when I'm giving a presentation, I'm really nervous. So I started really noticing and paying attention. But then when I went to college, it was sort of like my rebel phase, right? Because I think
Mm,
if you repress anything, it's going to come out in some way, shape,
yes,
or form. So I definitely went through that, like college, just exploring life and, meeting all sorts of different people. And of course, like it's like professional and also personal, and you're meeting friends and getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend or however, that plays out. And yeah, I had to, in a way, learn the hard way. I had to learn the hard way. Like I wasn't getting my certain needs met, slowly but surely I started opening up. But even then, I don't think I was able to be authentic, but I wasn't able to express myself probably in the way that I am now, or, like fully,
mm,
and to not be afraid. There's always still a little bit of fear involved. I'm not a perfect person, but I envy those people that have zero fear and can do anything and everything. But I'm getting there. But yeah, it was an evolving journey. But that was like, right before college, so senior year of high school. And I thank my high school teacher, Mr. Sund, who taught me about all of this stuff. And he went on his own journey and told the entire class about everything he went through. So that was my first like wow moment and really learning from him.
This is
Yeah.
excellent. I mean, this
Yeah.
is exciting. I think it's quite fortunate enough to have a professor around, teachers, or any mentor around who can open up to you and talk to you from their journey, that what probably went wrong, or maybe the kind of situation that they were, that helped them change for better, and we learn from their journey, from seeing, when you hear stories of people improving or people doing something good for themselves, then you get that hope and that glimmer, and that actually that confidence, that if a human being can do that, you are another human being. And if the other human being has been in the similar situation and they have made leaps of changes, in their life and their lifestyle
Yes.
and the way they are, you have the same qualities, you have the same, I think, confidence to do that. You just need to know how and begin doing that. So I'm happy that happened for you.
Thank
So,
you.
Serena, I'm very excited to know, you were high school, you were in the uni, and you mentioned that earlier it was all about environmental, topics, which was very dear to your heart, about climate, and you were very buried into that. So please take us through your initial journey of when you were, I mean, you're still very much continuing with the same topics that you are talking about, and you're very much into helping people be mindful about the environment that we are living in and how to make it a better place. But when it began for you, what were you thinking in terms of your career, that, oh, this is something that I'm going to smash it into this, or how was it for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because my thought process was I just want to make an impact. That I kept repeating that to myself over and over again. I just want to make an impact. And so I was kind of alone. I didn't really have a ton of mentors. I had specific mentors through my master's program, but something wasn't quite resonating. So I was trying to follow my heart. So I went through an internship with a climate change nonprofit. I didn't get paid anything, it was zero pay, but I knew it's something I needed to do. So I learned through mentors there and basically like self education. And I knew it was something within climate. So that kind of led me on the climate change advocacy journey. And then I ended up switching jobs quite a lot because I still wasn't sure. Like I got my master's in environmental science, and I was going from kind of like job to job trying to figure out, okay, is this what is resonating, or is this what's resonating? And after my, you know, just holistically after that experience, it feels like the jobs where I felt like I was a part of a team and where we made an actual difference. So it was like generally climate change related work within a nonprofit. I really felt like that collaboration. And when something happens, like I don't know if it's like regulatory changes or things that are like really something that could like change the world, is when I really felt the most impact. And it wasn't necessarily, for example, working for a huge corporate company, which nothing against corporate, but it was nice for me to have a huge, like a variety of experience, to know what really made that me feel that impact that I was like looking for my whole life.
Sarina, I like the fact that even when, like, you had, I would say, sort of a loose idea
Yeah.
of where you're heading, you were still not very sure, but you kept on experimenting, you kept on changing job, you somehow start. I think it's also another way of saying yes to the things, or maybe just being proactive and looking out for the things that you feel is you're inclined towards, or you have a bit of a calling, or you find very interesting. But you want to try that out and see if this is what it fits. And although, like, towards the end of this, you were able to, find your niche, as you mentioned, that this is what I felt, that this is what I want to do. That's amazing, because I think having that courage to go keep doing that, experimenting, that it's very, very challenging at the young age, because as of now, what I understand is that everyone wants to have it done by the end of the keys. Like, they're done, they have all clear, everything is clear, they are a comfortable financial position, and they are happy, which is great. Everyone should be happy. But it does take more to that. I feel like not everyone has a clarity of what they want to do in life, and you can only get clear once you give yourself the chance, you keep experimenting more.
Right.
But during that time, before we move on from this amazing chapter, because now we have arrived at what you really wanted to do, during this time when you were switching the job, still experimenting, being so proactive, and I would say brave as well, did you ever have that feeling of fear or uncertainty that, oh my God, I'm never going to land up something that I really want to work in? Did you ever have that feeling creep into you? Because I think I have been through that. So I'm just very curious to know.
I mean, it's really interesting because even when I was in the job, I didn't think it was almost like I didn't feel like this is it because there was so
Mm.
much more for me to do and explore. And I think there's different types of people that crave like novelty, and then people who feel comfortable in a role and like growing in a company. For me, I wanted like more and more and more. But it's interesting because my personality is very much like wanting more and being highly driven, but that also led me to burnout. And then the
Mm.
burnout is actually what led me to the next stage of my life, which I don't want to jump ahead. I would just say having gratitude for any position you're in, and while also keeping in mind, okay, like maybe there's something more, but when you're really in it, like be present and really appreciate where you're at, because everything is leading you to the next thing. And, if we always are thinking about the next thing,
Love
we're
that.
never going to be fully present. And all I can think now, like, let's say 10 years in, more than 10 years, but let's just say 10 years in, is, oh, I wish I was a little more present in the positions. With life, there's just so much going on. You have your personal life, your work life. So sometimes it just whizzes by and you're like, oh man, I should have probably been
Yeah.
more grateful in that moment for what I had.
And I think, Sarina, you have shared something very beautiful over here, which I would say that, when it's very natural and okay to have the goal, the next step that you want to head towards, and obviously keep looking for the next opportunity. But when you are in a particular role, you're working with certain team members and in certain place, it's very important to be present, because only if you perform your best in that role can you make the most out of the next opportunity, because everything in a way is connected, as you mentioned. And that's very beautiful, and you can only do your best when you're actually present. If you're not mentally present, you're missing out on very important information or certain things that you can creatively come about, which can help your project or your team to propel forward to do things that you can and achieve better things. And you never know that. And the way that you shine in a particular role, that people's eyes or on you, that hey, this person really made the change in this particular foundation, I would love to speak to this person. So I think this is amazing that you mentioned Sarina. Now I would love to that we've been talking about that you have switched multiple jobs in the pursuit of finding that one thing that could really hit your heart, that oh, this is what I really would like to keep working. But in that journey, as you mentioned, that then you came to a point where you had hit the burnout. Can you take us through that phase of your life?
Sure. So it was a bit of a lengthy phase, but it happened a few years into the like climate change arena, and I was also getting my master's. I've always had superhero mentality. I call it superhero mentality, where it's like you think you can do everything all at
Yeah.
once. So I was getting my master's and I was in full-time school, and then I was also do full-time work. And normally you don't want to do full-time on both. You want to do part-time on one, full-time on the other, or part-time and part-time. Because otherwise, I mean, as much as you feel like you can accomplish both and get like the best grades and also do the best job, it just doesn't work and it doesn't make sense unless you really are a superhero, which I always thought I was. So I guess we're all superheroes in our own way. But
Yes, for sure.
so that's kind of what happened. I ended up burning out, and actually, my burnout manifested as illness. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is just a very, fancy way of saying thyroid autoimmune disease. So, things happened, and I've been managing that for a while. Again, like same time period as the burnout. But it was like, I knew that I had another calling. So that's when I now we're going into like a fork where I opened a restaurant, which was a juicery, and then separately from that, while I was also going doing some sustainability work. I also recently launched my wellness company. So now I'm doing burnout coaching. So I'm actually a burnout recovery coach. So I help people, mostly women, go through burnout or hopefully never get to burnout. But now I teach people how to do that
Wow.
because I feel like it's my calling.
Amazing, Sarina. I'm going to pause over here because I want to understand, during that burnout phase, because how you bounced back from it is something very interesting, and that would be my next question. But this question that I'm trying to understand with the burnout phase, that what were you feeling? If you can take our listeners to the top three signs of, what burnout really looks like, and how did you really come out of it?
Sure, yeah. Burnout is just kind of like a giant word, and most people don't understand it. But yeah, so it's a lot of feeling like overwhelm, exhaustion, like chronic fatigue, where you feel like maybe you can't even get up in the morning, or maybe you feel like even if you have 2 or 3 cups of coffee, you're still not awake. You still can't get there. And then also,
That's the worst.
thirdly is the lack of motivation. You feel like you're just totally unmotivated, like you just can't get yourself to do it. And for people who are highly driven and motivated, that's like human torture. So it's like
Yes.
the burnout can get cyclical because you're like really hard on yourself, and then you want to do it but you can't, and you're hard, and then that leads to also, it goes back to our first point about self-love and how important it is, especially when you are feeling not great. If your health is kind of not in the best shape and you do feel that, a lot of times we ignore it. A lot of women ignore a lot of their symptoms. But yeah, it's if we're not paying attention to the symptoms and then ignoring them and also not taking care of ourselves, we're not giving ourselves the value that we deserve. And we humans are inherently valuable. Like, we're all just amazing and valuable, and we should be taking care of ourselves no matter what. So yeah, that's now what I teach people, is that connection, to develop that connection to the self, to give yourself love constantly.
This is exciting, and I'm very exciting to know that coming out of this, you started your own juice parlor, which is very exciting. And also, like, that's where your coaching stems from, the wellness coaching for women stems from. uh, I'm going to relay back to the same place that we were in, the burnout place, because I think we have learned the symptoms that we can maybe have a look. What's the root cause is something that we have also understood. How did you overcome that? If you can just share three top tips with our listeners today.
Sure. Well, like, where do I begin? So, okay, if I can narrow it down, diet for sure, making sure that like I'm taking care of my diet. Like, I started doing autoimmune paleo. So, and that was very much connected to thyroid autoimmune disease. And it's like autoimmune conditions are prevalent among women because we do actually, for example, like, we don't show our anger a lot, and we like repress our feelings, and that repressed emotion manifests as illness in our body. So it's really interesting. Like, if we are not expressing ourselves, which is why it's so important for the audience to know that they should express themselves and be authentic. So I just started living my best life. So my diet, living my best life, speaking up more, completely trying to be myself, and really deeply loving myself and establishing a relationship with myself. And lastly, emotional processing. A lot of what we go through is just like stagnant emotion. It's just stuck in our bodies and we're not able to release it. It's like holding on to hurt and pain. And it could be from childhood, it could be trauma as well. But figuring out how to emotionally process and release what you're going through is very important to actually healing, and for your body to be in an environment where it can thrive instead of shut down. So much can happen if your body is in that chronic state of fight or flight or anxiety, chronic stress, all that. So you want to avoid that. But I could talk about this forever. Sorry.
No, I love that. I love that we are touching on those important topics of, when someone does hit a roadblock in their journey, how do they overcome that? Because I think this is a part and parcel of life. This is not the first time that you'll be hitting a roadblock, and that once you overcome this, you're good for life.
Yes.
No,
Right.
that doesn't really work that way. But if you build the mechanisms of helping you out of such situations, the template that you create for yourself, and learn that, and hopefully through this conversation with Sarina, that I think our listeners and viewers have got some idea of, what are the symptoms of burning out, and how do you feel when you are burnt out, what the root cause could be, and how you can finally overcome that. if we have established some sort of mechanism for our listeners today, I think it would help them greatly in whichever place, or in whichever form of phase they are in their life. So that's amazing, Sarina. Thank you so much
You're so welcome.
for being with us on this journey today and taking us through your journey from the beginning to the point where it all started out, work out for you. And as we did touch a bit about the Juice Parlor, your business, and also your wellness coaching business, in terms of what really happened as a result of you coming into full force into your own self. But we would love to learn a bit more about that in detail right now. If you can share what it's really your businesses are all about, and why do you love to do that, before we take your leave today.
Sure. I mean, the coaching, it's technically just like a burnout program. It's a 6 to 8 week program. It's geared towards women right now, but essentially they go through a module every week, and every module is specifically created for them to go through a very specific process. So a lot of it is the first, you start with like the awareness piece, right? You're building an awareness, you're learning about yourself. You're learning about what's going on in the background of your mind. Why are you so stressed? Why are you burnt out? And how your thoughts and emotions are connected to your physical body. And I explain it, and it's all science based. I have a science background, so it's, I lay out why this is happening, because a lot of people have the like many aha moments of like, that's why I feel like that. I've been
Mm,
doing this for so many years. And a lot of it is nervous system based. So your central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and that's related to fight or flight and your stress response. So learning how to regulate the nervous system, then learning about how to process emotions. So I talk about emotions, and kind of have to learn a bit about it to understand you can't go from, let's say, like sorrow to extreme joy. You have to
yeah.
learn the process. So, and understanding, and really it's just building a relationship with yourself so you can build the trust again, because a lot of times we've completely disconnected and disassociated with ourselves.
Yes.
Then future pacing, like dreaming and meditating on who you want to be, because a lot of times we get stuck, like, not to negate therapy in any way, but sometimes we get stuck in the healing and the trauma, and we forget to understand who we want to be in the future.
Mm,
So a lot of that future pacing is important. And I don't know, I created the program specifically because it's all of my learnings of the last decade. And if somebody could have just taught me this when I was going through everything, I would totally have been able to, not get sick or not have experienced burnout. So I do this now for people who I teach them about it. So now they can come to me and go through the process so I can
amazing.
speed it up for them.
That's exciting, Serena, and thank you so much, for
Yeah, of course.
taking us through. I think what's more important, as you started off by saying that you were very sure from the beginning that you wanted to create an impact, and voila! I think finally you are in a place where you are doing that, and in such an amazing way.
Thank
And
you.
it's good to see that you are pursuing both your interests and the passions, which is being a wellness coach, helping people turn a new leaf, I would say,
Yeah.
but also continuing with your love and passion for environmental peace, and for advocating and showing through your example that how people can be mindful about the environment. And I love the fact that you started off your juice parlor in Los Angeles. If I'm ever in Los Angeles, I would love to drop by the juice parlor.
So the juice parlor was sold, but it still exists. So I still go myself, but it's not no longer mine. I've passed the baby on to somebody else. But you can still go. I still go. I love it.
That's I love that, that you start on something, and then when you want to kind of progress in life to other goals that you want to, that you take that particular the project that you started, and you pass on to the right people so that it still exists. And it also shows you that you do not need to be bounded by something that you started off early on, because life changes, you evolve, and we evolve, and our decisions can keep changing. So this is amazing, while still sticking through your values, and being able to give a gift to world, that is very, very important. So wow, Sarina, it has been such an amazing chat with you today. I love
Thank you. Likewise, likewise. You're so awesome. I love your energy. You're so wonderful.
I was thank you so much, and I was going to say the same thing, that you You can see that, the glow, the calm mind, but very energetic, person who can say that you once shied from speaking.
That was a recent breakthrough, believe it or not. I'm 38 years old. It's never too late. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep
Are
going.
you?
And now I actually speak now in public. So I'm really
Love
pushing
it.
myself. So whatever I'm afraid of is exactly what I do.
Well, even though you did reveal your age, you definitely don't look like that. So I really couldn't say that you're not. I can't say that you are that age, which means I was just reading somewhere on this book that when you are full of life, you actually stay young in mind, and also the way that you look, because that's what your hormones or the cells, that's what they do to you. That
Yes.
if you are on the right path of what you want to do, you're happy, you're loving yourself, so it only shows that you practice what you preach, and it shows. So thank you so much,
Thank
Sarina, for
you.
being on my first step ever. And as I always request my guest speakers to leave our listeners with a quote or a saying that they really resonate with.
Okay. I have always loved Maya Angelou's quote. People will never forget, or sorry, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Absolutely true. And thank you so much for making us
Sure.
feel so warm today on this podcast. For all of you as the listeners, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes if you would want to kind of follow Sarina's journey. I'm sure you would love to learn more about her journey. So do that. And before I say bye to all of you, as I always say, start believing in yourself and keep believing in yourself. See you until next time. Please do give ratings and please do write your comments. And you can directly reach out to me on my first step ever _IN. That's my Instagram handle. A little about myself. I have always loved performing on stage, acting, speaking, and just emoting myself. So I use these mediums different ways so that I can connect with people, help them, empower them, infotain them, which is to inform them and entertain them. If you would like to collaborate for any opportunities, more than welcome to connect with me on my Instagram handle. Thank you.